Hello and welcome to the News Central TV, and my name is Mazino Peel. Here are stories making headlines beyond the continent today. We begin the news in Europe, where MPs have voted in favour of a bill to legalise assisting dying in England and Wales, with 330 votes for and 275 against, following a 5-hour emotional debate. During the discussion, MPs shared personal stories, while opponents emphasized the need for improved end-of-life care. The bill's passage marks the first stage in the legislative process and will undergo months of scrutiny before becoming law. This vote represents a significant shift in British social policy, as campaigners gathered at Westminster reacted with tears of both joy and disappointment. Under current law, medical assistance for dying is prohibited, but the proposed bill outlines specific criteria for patients' eligibility. However, people have opposed to legalising assisting dying rally outside the UK Parliament, hosting or holding placards with slogans such as "Don't ask doctors to be killers" and "Sort out care first."
To ensure that my politics stays rooted in the world beyond Westminster. And it's clear that public opinion is very much in favour of a change in the law. Polling shows consistently that around 75% of people would like to see the legalisation of assisted dying for terminally ill, mentally competent adults. These findings are significant, but it may not be that surprising that most people believe, as I do, that we should all have the right to make the choices and decisions we want about our own bodies. And let's be clear, we are not talking about a choice between life or death. We are talking about giving dying people a choice of how to die. Yeah.
France's hardline Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau has stated that Britain can no longer subcontract Channel border security to Paris as migrant crossing continues unabated. Retailleau, who will meet with his British counterpart on December 9, called for a comprehensive deal between the UK and the European Union. He warned that France could cancel a 2004 agreement allowing British passport control on French soil if the situation doesn't improve. Retailleau emphasized that the border is Europe's common external border and that France cannot bear the full burden of defending it. He blamed Brexit for undermining immigration cooperation and insisted that the UK and other European partners must play their part. He also stated that there is no buying their silence with British pounds.
Pour le dire de façon très précise, la relation entre la France et le Royaume-Uni, elle ne peut pas se résumer à la simple sous-traitance du gardiennage de la frontière. Ça n'est pas possible. Ça n'est pas possible. Si autant de migrants souhaitent traverser la Manche, c'est parce que le modèle britannique est très attractif. Et on en connaît les éléments de l'attractivité. Et que pour l'instant, nos amis britanniques n'ont jamais rien fait pour que l'attractivité de ce modèle soit remise en cause. Il y a un bras de fer à engager. J'espère que nous n'arriverons pas là. Mais on doit changer cette relation si on veut changer de braquet et si justement on veut un cadre nouveau.
Meanwhile, Iran's nuclear ambitions remain a significant global security threat, despite recent setbacks to its allied militia, UK Foreign Intelligence Chief Richard Moore said Friday. Speaking in Paris, Moore highlighted that while groups like Hamas and Hezbollah have faced serious blows, Iran's nuclear efforts continue to endanger global stability. He also noted the regime's ongoing action to eliminate dissidents at home and abroad. On the same day, Iran held nuclear talks in Geneva with Britain, France, and Germany amid escalating tension with Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to prevent Tehran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Meanwhile, the UN nuclear agency reported that Iran plans to install around 6,000 new centrifuges to enrich uranium, escalating concerns over its nuclear program.
But the regime's DGSE and SIS share reporting insights so that discussions about peace can benefit from a common intelligence picture. Iran's allied militias across the Middle East have suffered serious blows, but the regime's nuclear ambitions continue to threaten all of us, especially friends of France and the UK in the Gulf region.
In the meantime, Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov has hailed the strengthening of ties with North Korea during a surprise visit to Pyongyang. Speaking about the mutual defense treaty binding the two nations, Belousov emphasized the growing partnership amid shared challenges. Both countries have faced international sanctions, North Korea for its nuclear weapons program and Russia for its ongoing offensive in Ukraine. This visit underscores deepening cooperation between Moscow and Pyongyang as they navigate geopolitical tensions and also sanctions. This move highlights their alignment against global opposition, drawing attention to the broader implication for international relations and regional stability. And Georgian riot police have fired tear gas and used water cannons to disperse protesters in Tbilisi after the government delayed its pursuit of European Union accession. Thousands of demonstrators rallied against the decision, which was made by Prime Minister Irakli Kokatsidze amid a post-election crisis. Now, protesters waving EU and Georgian flags blocked traffic outside Parliament, demanding a reversal of the delay. The crackdown continued into the early hours, with police using rubber bullets and beating protesters and journalists. Several arrests were made. The protests followed the European Parliament's resolution rejecting the October elections and calling for new polls. Now, he also announced the delay in EU accession plans until 2028, despite Georgia's EU candidate status granted in December 2023.
ყველას მოვუწოდებ, კარგად გაიაზროს, არც პოლიტიკის, არც პარტიული მიმართულების აზრის მნიშვნელობა აღარ აქვს, ქვეყანა გვეკარგება. გასაქცევს კიდევ ერთხელ მოვუწოდებ ყველას, ყველა ვიპოვით აუცილებლად, მაგრამ ეს საქართველოს აღარ დაგხვდება უკან.
იმ მთელი ამ პერიოდის ჩვენი ისტორიის განმავლობაში რაც გვინდოდა ევროკავშირი მაგაზე ფაქტურად უარი თქვეს ოღონდ თან ისე უთხრეს რომ ევროკავშირში ჩვენ უთხარით უარი ხალხის რეაქცია ადეკვატური იყო დარწმუნებულია რომ უფრო ადეკვატური იქნება მომავალ დღეებში და ეს არ უნდა დაუშვათ ანუ მთელი ჩვენი
ეს არის კონსტიტუციური გადატრიალება პრაქტიკულად დღეს ქართულმა ოცნებამ შეასრულა პუტინის დავალება მიიღო კიდევაც მადლობა და საქართველოს მთლიანად ჩაუკეტა მისი განვითარების და ევროატლანტიკური პერსპექტივა.
A Russian court has sentenced Alexei Gorinov, the first person to be convicted for speaking out against Moscow's military offensive in Ukraine, to another 3 years in prison in a second trial. The 63-year-old, a former Moscow city councillor, is already serving a 7-year sentence following a conviction in 2022. A video released by independent media shows him receiving a new sentence from a court in Vladimir on charges of justifying terrorism while wearing a paper badge with a peace sign inscribed on it.
Давайте прекратим эту никому не нужную бойню, ни нам, ни жителям Украины. Не пора ли оставить наших соседей в покое и заняться нашими своими внутренними проблемами, которые нарастают, как снежный ком. Но пока отвечать приходится не тем, кто устроил войну, продолжает убивать, пропагандирует войну и занимается наемничеством, а нам, обычным гражданам России, поднимающим свой голос против войны за мир, отвечать, расплачивать своей свободой, а кому-то даже жизнью. Моя вина состоит в том, что я, как гражданин своей страны, допустил эту войну, не смог ее остановить. И прошу отметить это в приговоре. Но я хотел бы, чтобы мою вину и ответственность разделили вместе со мной также и организаторы, участники, сторонники войны, а также преследователи тех, кто выступает за мир. Продолжаю жить с надеждой, что так когда-нибудь и будет. А пока...
Still in Europe, the U.S. has proposed providing anti-personnel mines to Ukraine, sparking what campaigners have described as a crisis in the anti-personnel mine ban convention. Ukraine, a treaty signatory, is under pressure to reject the offer, which violates the treaty prohibiting landmines. The U.S., not a signatory, announced the transfer last week, drawing criticism from a rights group and overshadowing the treaty's conference in Siem Reap, Cambodia. Tamar Gabelnik, director of the international campaign to ban landmines, urged Kyiv to decline the mines, while Ukraine's defense officials pledged to convey concerns to their government. President Volodymyr Zelensky, however, has called the mines vital for defense against Russia. Meanwhile, Finland, which recently joined NATO, has debated reintroducing landmines amid heightened security concerns over tensions with Russia.
We have heard some concerns raised by community. They will be conveyed to the government of Ukraine. We continue communication through the established diplomatic channel of the convention.
Today, however, Mr. President, the mine ban treaty is facing a test on a level it has never faced before. The crisis, of course, is the announcement of a U.S. decision to transfer anti-personnel mines to Ukraine, which, if accepted and the mines used, would be a clear and significant violation of the mine ban treaty. We therefore hope very much that the mines offered by the U.S. will be firmly rejected by Ukraine. We welcome clarification from Ukraine in that regard, and we thank Ukraine for communicating the concerns of this room about the announced transfer back to Kyiv. It goes without saying that if Ukraine were to accept these mines and use them, it would raise by far the most serious compliance challenge that the treaty has ever faced. We therefore hope and expect Ukraine will respect its legal obligations and reject this deadly gift.
Let's go on a short break now, and when we return, I will tell you that Lula hosts Uruguayan president-elect when we get back. You're welcome back. We now head to the U.S., where we made you understand that Venezuela's parliament on Thursday passed the Liberator Simon Bolivar Act that punishes support for sanctions on President Nicolas Maduro's regime by up to 30 years in prison, part of a widening crackdown on dissent in the Caribbean country. According to the law, anyone who encourages, instigates, demands, invokes, favors, enables, supports, or takes part in the adoption of coercive measures will be punished with a 25 to 30-year prison sentence. The legislation provides for fines of over $1 million for violations and bars politicians, or rather political leaders, who fall foul of it from holding elected office for 60 years. The law's adoption comes a day after the United States slapped sanctions on 21 top Venezuelan security and cabinet officials, accusing them of campaign of repression after Maduro's bitterly contested re-election.
En defensa de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela, sírvanse manifestarlo con la señal de costumbre. Queda aprobado. En consecuencia, lo vamos a hacer. Y sin duda podríamos señalarlo como una expresión de la decrepitud de un imperio que considera elementos de suma peligrosidad.
1. Hayan promovido, instigado, solicitado, invocado, favorecido, respaldado o participado en la adopción o ejecución de medidas coercitivas unilaterales u otras medidas restrictivas o punitivas contra la población venezolana, los poderes públicos o sus autoridades por parte de un Estado, grupo de Estados o corporaciones extranjeras.
Now, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has hosted Uruguay's president-elect Yamandro Ossi in Brazil to discuss the European Union-Mercosur trade agreement. Now, the talks focused on the finalization of the deal, a key issue for both countries. Ossi highlighted the strong relationship between his political party and Lula's, describing the meeting as one between friends. He emphasized that the main topic of conversation was analyzing the shared perspective on both nations and the region in a turbulent global environment. The discussions underscore the continued collaboration between Brazil and Uruguay as they navigate international trade dynamics.
La semana próxima se llevará a cabo una cumbre en Uruguay, donde uno de los temas centrales es la relación y los avances en la relación entre Mercosur y Unión Europea. Yo estoy convencido que nos llevó la mayor parte de la reunión el analizar el estado de situación y las posibilidades que tenemos, y como conclusión uno dice, somos optimistas. Como Mercosur y como región somos optimistas en la posibilidad de seguir estrechando lazos con otras regiones y fundamentalmente con Europa. El mundo de hoy nos exige estar muy atentos y las relaciones entre los países de la región tienen que ser más fuertes que nunca, más allá, por supuesto, de los gobiernos o de los partidos que llegan a los gobiernos.
Now let's head to Asia, where we understand that Japan's Prime Minister has said he will hold frank discussions with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, emphasizing the importance of their cooperation for a free and open Pacific. The announcement comes in between growing concerns over China's assertiveness in the Asia-Pacific and North Korea's expanding missile activities. The Prime Minister described his earlier phone conversations with Trump as very friendly, underscoring the strategic alliance between the two nations. Japan, which hosts 54,000 U.S. military personnel, has been enhancing its defense posture, geared towards doubling its military spending to meet NATO standards. Now, while Trump's America First approach has previously pressured allies to shoulder more defense responsibilities, Japan remains committed to strengthening its military and securing capabilities. Relations between Tokyo and Washington have historically been strong, marked by cooperation and significant mutual investments. Let's also tell you that a Beijing court has sentenced veteran journalist Dong Yu to 7 years in prison on espionage charges, his family confirmed on Friday. Dong, a senior columnist at Guangming Daily, was detained in February 2022 after meeting a Japanese diplomat who was later released. Authorities accused Dong of collaborating with espionage organizations, including Japanese diplomats named in the judgment. Beijing's foreign ministry, however, defended the ruling, stating it was handled in accordance with the law. Meanwhile, the Committee to Protect Journalists condemned the verdict, calling it unjust and urging Dong's release, emphasizing that interacting with diplomats is integral to journalism. Dong, a Nieman Fellow of Harvard and former visiting scholar in Japan, now joins 44 journalists currently imprisoned in China, which CPJ ranks as the world's worst jail of media workers. Now, environmental activists from organizations like WWF and Greenpeace are protesting outside the Busan Exhibition and Convention Center, demanding a robust global treaty to combat plastic pollution. As negotiators from nearly 200 countries meet behind closed doors, the activists are urging them to take decisive action. The treaty aims to address the devastating impact of plastic waste on our planet.
이곳에 모인 170여 개국의 정부 대부분은 지금 무엇을 해야 하는지 분명히 알고 있습니다. 어떤 조치가 필요한지 그리고 이를 어떻게 실행할 수 있는지 알고 있다는 뜻입니다.
We are unfortunately seeing a consensus culture stopping us from getting a meaningful treaty. There are all these concessions being made. The discussions become more and more complex, and we will get a chair's paper later today, and it's really essential then we'll see whether the global rules that we need are included.
In the Middle East, Hezbollah chief Naim Qassem has pledged to coordinate closely with the Lebanese army to implement the terms of a ceasefire with Israel, which began 2 days ago. Speaking on Friday, Qassem assured that the coordination between Hezbollah and the Lebanese army would be at a high level to ensure the ceasefire's success. He emphasized that there would be no issues or disagreements with the army during the implementation of the agreement. Qassem's remark came as Hezbollah and the Lebanese army work together to uphold the terms of the ceasefire and maintain stability in the region.
التنسيق بين المقاومة والجيش اللبناني سيكون تنسيقا عالي المستوى لتنفيذ التزامات الاتفاق. لا يراهنن أحد على مشاكل أو خلاف.
A Palestinian family is mourning the death of a woman killed in a stampede outside a bakery in Deir el-Balah. That's central Gaza. Now, local reports have also confirmed the deaths of 2 other women in the incident. The health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza has stated that the death toll from the ongoing war between Israel and Palestinian militants has now reached 44,363, with 33 deaths reported in the last 24 hours. Additionally, over 105,000 people have been wounded in the Gaza Strip since the conflict began on October 7, 2023, following an attack by Hamas militants on Israel. The war has now entered its 13th month, continuing to devastate the region.
طلعت الصباح الباكر من أجل الحصول على ربطة خبز لأولادها، وأثناء تواجدها عند المخبز حصل تدافع بين الحشود الموجود من أجل الذين يحاولون الحصول على ربطة الخبز، وأثناء التدافع حصلت حالة الاختناق لها وأدت بتعيل ل10 أفراد. فهمت علي؟ والمعاناة اللي بتعانيها أختي بيعانيها كل أبناء الشعب الفلسطيني، وأختي مش محتاجة إنها تشرح لي إيش المعاناة اللي بتعانيها لأنه أنا نفسي بعانيها.
Now that's all on Beyond the Continent. To remember, you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Able TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.